Someone who came through my program and she lost 40 pounds in 90 days. She called me and she was in a frenzy and she said, JT, I've lost the weight, I feel great, but when I look in the mirror, I still see that overweight person that I was 90 days ago before starting your program. And you think to yourself, like, how's that possible? Like, you lost the weight and now you feel like the weight is still on there? Because there's a perception, right? I finally came to that realization that there is a perception about the way we see ourselves. And based on that, right, we have emotions that impact our actions, and those actions, if they promote bad habits, right, that impacts our character. And then it's this perpetual cycle of going on a diet, breaking all the rules that you learned in the diet, gaining the weight back, and then just being in that perpetual yo-yo cycling place, which is a horrible place to be. What if I told you that losing weight is more about behavior change than it is counting calories, macros, or points? That's right. You're probably thinking, man, I've been on all these diets and I'm just a failure, or I'm flawed, or I don't have the discipline, or I'm big boned, or one of these things that most people say when they fail with their nutrition. They've been on programs, they've lost some weight, but all of a sudden that weight has come back on. If this is you, please stay with me because I have some important things that I would like to share with you. Most nutrition programs, right, all the ones you see out there focus exclusively on mechanics, and even though that's needed, I don't believe that's the end-all do-all. 97% of people that go on these diets bounce right back. More importantly, and even more sadly, is the fact that the weight comes back on with a vengeance. I think you know what I'm talking about if this has happened to you before. You lose 15, you gain 25, you lose 25, you gain 35, and the story goes on and on and on and on. There's a book by Maxwell Maltz, and in his book called Cybernetics, he explains how most people would come into his office. He was a doctor, he was a surgeon, and people would come into his office for aesthetic face reconstruction. And he would deter 90% of the people that would come into his office simply by shifting the way they perceived the image of their face. Now, think about this. Someone comes in and they think that they have this law, right? Maybe they have a elongated chin or a big nose, and they're like, Doc, I need you to help me. And in a matter of 60 minutes, he would change their perspective and get them away from surgery. Now, you ask, well, what did he say to these people? And it was very easy. All he would basically do is say, hey, I believe that your elongated chin or your big nose accentuates certain features of your face and actually makes you look XYZ way. And they would walk out of the office with a completely different perception of the way their face looked. I know this is true and I know this works because for the past 23 years in all of my programs, I have seen people lose weight and radically change their outcomes. That's right, you say, how? It's just losing weight. Isn't it just aesthetics? Isn't it just the way they look? And to an extent, yes, that's the initial thing that happens, but because how you do anything is how you do everything, what we see is people's life change radically in all areas of life. In other words, we see people in their parenting, in their marriages, in their personal relationships, in their interpersonal relationships get 100% better simply by losing weight. And one of the things I believe to be true about this is that when we activate our physiology, we have better thoughts and we basically get away from all the mental clutter. Losing weight is not just about something physical, but it actually allows your mind to be acute, right? It allows you to have better retention, better creativity. It allows you to really embrace a lot of these aspects that before were just clouded because there were so many toxins in your body and because you weren't operating at your fullest potential. And so I want you to start to shift your idea around. This lady that came to me and told me that she still felt like she was 40 pounds overweight, even though she had just lost the weight in 90 days. It was not easy to basically get her to shift because her eyes were used to seeing that person in the mirror for so long, and all of a sudden in such a short period of time, she had lost the weight. So then the idea is, How do we start to shift our mindset around the way we look, about the way we perceive food? And so I have 3 tips for you that I think are super, super important in order to start this shift. It's not easy, but if you're committed to this process, meaning that you're willing to do whatever is necessary versus being interested, which says that you're just gonna do whatever is convenient, then this plan will start to work for you and you'll see massive returns on investment. Number 1, I think it's important to shift from the idea of food being convenient and entertaining. I see this all the time. People, when they speak about food, they talk about convenience and they talk about entertainment. We're always looking for the quick fix. So it's the drive-through, it's maybe the Hot Pocket in the microwave for 5 minutes, it's maybe reaching for the thing that's in a bag, in a jar, and usually those things get us in trouble. Or we talk about food in terms of entertainment. I hear people in my program sometimes say, I just feel bored. And when you ask the question, bored with what? They really don't know why they're bored, but I know why they're bored. They're bored simply because we took away their vice, right, which was filling a void before. Now that they don't have it, they feel like they're bored by the process, right? They feel like they want that thing that was filling the void. So we shift from looking at convenience and we shift from thinking of food in terms of entertainment, and what we actually do is we focus in terms of fuel. We look at food like a tool, not a toy, right? It's there to fuel our performance. It's there to make us mentally acute. It's there to give us more energy throughout the day, to give us creativity. When we start to see the impact of those things in our lives, something happens, something really, really cool happens. When we see progress, which is really the lifeline of life, period. Someone who doesn't see progress, is stagnated, tends to get depressed, tends to fall back, tends to not follow through. But when you're making progress, that is a force to be reckoned with, because what actually happens is you start to do better and be better because you want to see more of that progress. So looking at food in terms of fuel versus convenience or entertainment is really, really important. I think that's the first step. Step number 2 is eliminating some of those foods, some of those vices, some of those foods that you have a dysfunctional relationship with. That's right. It could be ice cream, pasta, pizza, burgers, whatever that is for you. And you know what I'm talking about, because when you actually eat those things, you feel really horrible for the next couple of hours and days. You're like, I can't believe I did that. I told myself I wasn't gonna do it, and here I go, I did it again, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about. So what we need to do is actually break up with those foods. You need to put those foods aside, right, for 6 to 8 weeks. Now, here's the best advice I can give you. You don't want to break up with 2 or 3 food groups at the same time. You want to break up with one, okay? So you want to find the one that you have the biggest affinity to. So maybe it's ice cream. You break up with ice cream for 6 to 8 weeks. What you're going to notice is that your cravings for that particular food is going to decrease. And when you gain momentum there, you're gonna start knocking out the next dysfunctional meal and the next dysfunctional food. And then all of a sudden you're putting all these things that were so hard for you before to stay away from aside without even having to discipline or force yourself to do. Number 3, before you can make any kind of shifts, right? As you're making these shifts, I think it's really important to start to take inventory of the people that you hang out with. And this is one of the hardest things to do. I had to do it many, many years ago when my life changed. I had to really take inventory and say, who are the people in my life that are actually adding and who are the people that are actually taking away? And it was a simple decision for me. The people that were adding, I brought into my life, or I kept in my life, and the people that were taking away, I simply, respectfully, tactfully, lovingly just separated myself from them. What happens when we actually start to create relationships with other people that are playing the game higher than we are, call it finance, call it nutrition, call it fitness, what naturally tends to happen is that if you're down here and that person is up here, but you hang around that person long enough, your game starts to elevate. And that is just natural in us to be competitive and to want to follow the lead. So when we see someone that is doing something positive, we have a tendency to follow that lead. So if you hang around people that have a ton of vices in their life and a ton of unhealthy, they're making a ton of unhealthy choices, guess what? You're going to follow suit, no matter how great your intentions are. And so what we need to do is we actually need to find those people that serve as a light torch, right? And we want to start following those people. We want to start, if they're going to go do cardio with them. If they're going to compete maybe in a 5K, go do the 5K with them. If they're part of a gym, see if you can come and hang out with them while they're training, right? Don't be distracting. Just make sure, you keep up as much as you can. And add value to that person's life as well, so that they feel compelled to always call you and bring you into these activities. And as that happens, you start to elevate. That's a beautiful way to really start to change your perception around food. So I just want to recap here on 3 things that we talked about. We want to break up with those vices, those foods that are not serving us, right, for 6 to 8 weeks. And then slowly but surely start to break up with food number 1, food number 2, food number 3. Number 2, we want to eliminate all types of cravings and things that are holding us back, right? We want to make sure we push those things aside. Number 3, we want to make sure that we are picking people in our life, we're choosing people in our life that are actually helping us elevate. My friend, I believe that if you stick to these 3 components, regardless of where you are, maybe you're here trying to elevate and lose weight and get healthy, and you're right here, right? And if you follow these 3 steps, I know that you're going to elevate. You're going to start changing your mind around food. And when that happens, the mechanics come very, very, very easily. My friend, my name is JT Tapias. I'm the founder of the Empty Your Bucket Nutrition Plan. I've been doing this for 23 years, and these are the things I love speaking about, things that edify the mind, the body, and the spirit. I hope you got something out of this video. More importantly, as I always say, I hope you put it to action. If we're not friends, maybe this is your first time you stumbled upon this video. We have lots of videos like this in this channel. Please subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in my next videos. If you enjoyed this video, you will absolutely love this one here. I'll talk to you guys soon. Ciao, ciao.